Ecuador is a very special country located in the center of the planet on the equator where the northern and southern hemispheres meet. It is a paradise where you can experience all of the climates and seasons in one day, but it's also a country that's experiencing a period of political and social strife. I'm not an expert about what's going on in Ecuador right now, but I do know that it's a dangerous place where anything can happen at any time. In the short week that I've been here, I've experienced a shooting where somebody died. I've narrowly escaped political protests and roadblocks. And just a couple days ago, I heard about 2 more shootings, 10 or 15 minute walk down the beach here. So it's been a very emotional and difficult week, and I actually wasn't going to make a video about it at all because locals, friends, family members, everyone has warned me not to make a video about it, but I really felt like I wanted to speak out. And I'm not going to include any names or identifying features of any of the places that I've been, but I'll just tell you what happened and also how it's affected my perspective of travel, especially as a solo female traveler, and also some ways that you can stay safe when you're traveling. So what happened? Well, I was just in Costa Rica last week dealing with a banking situation that I've made other videos about and I'll link to below. And then I came to Ecuador for a music event where I was going to be playing. And I also decided to make it a tour to kind of go around Ecuador, play in different venues, and also to make a video about the best places to live in Ecuador because it's always been a place that's very beautiful, very affordable, low cost of living, good healthcare. And so I thought I would film in popular places like Cuenca and Quito and Montanita and other places to make a video for you. I did start filming, but I decided not to make that video because I really don't think that it's the safest place to voluntarily move and live and retire right now. At first, I didn't think that way because I went to Cuenca first, which is a really beautiful, fairly safe, as far as I know, town in the mountains here in Ecuador. It has a really nice climate. It's very laid back, very tranquil. And that was my first impression of Ecuador. Everything went well there. I was there for 2 or 3 days. And then I flew to Quito for a music performance. And that's where things went south. I was at a bar with some friends and really didn't feel very safe. Like it felt like the energy was off. I didn't have a good intuitive feeling about being there. Yeah, this was a couple hours after I got to the airport and suddenly there was a shooting at the entrance of the venue where a security guard was shot multiple times and unfortunately didn't survive. This was obviously terrifying. I've actually talked about my sister's experience narrowly escaping gun violence in the United States. So it's not something that is, specific to Ecuador. The world's a very dangerous place right now. And even the week that I left the US for Costa Rica and to come here was the week of the Charlie Kirk shooting, which was also the same day as a school shooting, which was the same week as another school shooting. So, the US, Latin America, many countries around the world are, experiencing tough times right now. I don't know comparatively how it is compared to before because it seems like with the news and internet and social media, we hear a lot about things that maybe weren't as much in the news before. And also being here in Ecuador, there's a lot of things that happen that don't get out into the news. So yeah, it's a really tough time in general, I think, for humanity and planet Earth, but that's a story for another day. I just wanted to focus on, what happened here and what are the lessons that I've learned from this. So I think I'm still a little bit in shock from what happened in the shooting. And again, I don't want to get into too many details that could identify the place, but from what I've read online about shootings in other places around Ecuador, a lot of it has been drug related, cartel related, as well as in Mexico. Actually, this week I read in the news that 2 singers, artists from Colombia were killed in Mexico City in a neighborhood that I've been to before and I've walked around before. Apparently they were on their way to the gym and never came back. So, it's just scary times. But yeah, this was the first time that I've been in such close proximity to gun violence, that I've seen a person get shot with a gun and on the ground, and he eventually died. I feel I haven't really been around guns much in my life, never been to a firing range or anything like that. And I think, the severity of the situation, like the power that is in a weapon, is just very unnerving. And it could have been so much worse. So I think, of course, I feel for the victim's family, and that has been on my mind a lot, especially how I walked in and, said hello to him and walked through, but I feel like I didn't really see him, like he let us in through the door and I was like, hola, gracias. But I feel bad that I didn't really see him, and then he was dead a few minutes later. So it's really scary to think about how, if this would have happened 5 or 10 minutes earlier, then I would have been standing right there. And I don't know if the gunman was watching my friends and I as we walked in through the door. I don't know how close he was. I don't know if he saw us. I don't know why he decided to do this. I don't know why he killed this person. I don't know anything about what happened. All I know is that I was very close to that, and I'm very grateful that he decided to leave without causing more harm to the people, the innocent people that were there, bystanders. And since this happened, since I've read more stories about things that have happened in Ecuador, I see that other people haven't been so lucky. So I do feel really like it was a really, really close call. And I'm really grateful that nothing happened to me or my friends. But I also feel horrible for this man and his family and all the other people who've been affected by violence in Ecuador and also all around the world, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have a family member that's suffering from PTSD from other situations. And yeah, I don't know yet. It's only been a few days, so I don't know exactly how I'll be affected by this in the long term, but it really helped to go home, go back to the Airbnb, talk with my friends, and we just stayed up all night talking. And then I went straight to the airport, changed my flight, was going to stay in Quito for a couple days, but I just decided to leave and go to a different corner of the country on the beach. But my family was like, why didn't you leave the country? And I don't know, it felt like I didn't want to make that decision in the moment out of fear. I wanted to just kind of go somewhere else that I thought was safe and sleep and rest and think about what happened and then decide what I wanted to do. And I do think that I'm safe in the place that I am now. I'm not publishing this video until after I leave. But then 2 days ago, I walked down the beach and went to get lunch, go to the store, go to the pharmacy, and two of the girls sitting at the restaurant where I was, they asked oh, are you traveling alone? And I was like, oh no, my friends are, back at the house. I just came to get lunch, because I don't ever want to tell people that I'm traveling alone. And that's one of my pieces of advice for you that we'll talk about in just a minute. But they said, well, how did you get here? And I said, I just walked on the beach. And they're like, don't walk on the beach. Don't walk anywhere here, especially by yourself. Take taxis everywhere. They said, we haven't even left to walk our dogs. And I was like, well, why? What happened? And they said that there was a shooting here in this town. The same night that there was the shooting in Quito, there was a shooting here. And a man who was just sitting on, outside on the corner was killed. And that it was also, allegedly maybe gang related. They were looking for someone and they couldn't find him. So they decided to shoot this person and rob this restaurant and shoot security cameras in another area. And then they came back the next day, apparently. So I don't know if any of this has gotten in the news either, but it's just, scary. It's a scary time to be here. So that didn't make me feel good. And I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go to the airport in Guayaquil. And then people are saying, be careful about Guayaquil. So I would say this is probably the most dangerous place that I've been, with the most things happening in a small amount of time. So it's definitely scary. But unfortunately, this isn't the first time that I've experienced risks while traveling in other countries. Back when I lived in Costa Rica about 20 years ago, I had my car broken into. I had my house broken into. I witnessed a girl getting mugged at gunpoint outside of my apartment entrance in San Jose. I've heard countless stories through the expat coconut wire of things that happened in different corners of the country. I've heard of, surfers getting killed when they were camping in Mexico. Like, I've heard a lot of stories over the years, and I've personally been in a lot of, pretty dangerous situations. But then I've also read things that have happened in the news and in places. I remember when the Bali bombings happened. I think we all remember Brussels airport, Paris shootings. Like, there have been so many scary things that have happened all around the world, but throughout it hasn't affected my desire to travel. There's just certain things that I try to do wherever I go to stay safe. And so I want to share some of those things with you. One thing I always do wherever I am, but especially in Latin America, is I never walk outside with valuables. So holding a camera, taking photos, holding your cell phone, wearing jewelry, wearing your smartwatch, like, just try to go with as little valuables as possible. I have a fanny pack that I do have my phone in there usually. Unless I'm not going far, then I can go without it. Just have like some cash on you, like an ID or one credit or debit card. Have your other credit and debit cards in a different place in case something gets stolen. You have them split up. Carrying minimal cash with you. Like, I think around here I have like $20, maybe $30 with me. And not telling people where you're staying, who you're with. It just comes up naturally in conversation when you meet locals. They're like, oh, where are you staying? Like, they're just curious, like, which part of town are you in? Are you by yourself? Like, I never say that I'm by myself. I always say, oh yeah, I'm with my boyfriend or my friends. Like, they're back at the house or the hotel. And I always say a different place of where I'm staying. So when I lived in Costa Rica and I lived in Playa Guiones, I would tell people I lived in Playa Pilata, which is 10 minutes away. And when I lived in Playa Pilata, I told people I lived in Playa Guiones because I don't want people to know exactly where I'm living, because there's no point. It's just a risk. So not telling people where you are, and then also staying in safe places, staying in safe Airbnbs, hotels, reading reviews. The place I'm in now is pretty much a fortress. There's like a locked gate. There's a locked front door. My door is locked with a code. And then when I go to sleep, I lock my bedroom door. Seems like it would be hard to break into here, but also wherever you are staying, always make sure to secure your valuables. Hide them. It's hard in a hotel room. My friend in Italy had the entire safe ripped out of the wall of her hotel room with a lot of valuable jewelry and money in there. That can be tough in hotels, but when I'm in Airbnbs, I hide things like under couch cushions, in the refrigerator or the freezer, or under the sink in the bathroom, inside of a pot and a pan. Like, it might sound crazy, but when my house was broken into in Costa Rica, they didn't find any of my money because it was hidden in other parts of the house, but they did get my camera and passport and some other stuff. When you are traveling around, be careful if you're on public transportation, on a bus. There could be pickpockets. There could be people that steal your luggage. So in this case, the way that I got here was with a trusted private driver from one of my friends. There's also Ubers in Quito where, people have like hundreds, thousands of reviews on their Uber ratings. So that's usually pretty safe. Or trusted taxi sources, which you can call for a taxi here through WhatsApp. And there's an official company there that I've taken those taxis as well. But be careful how you get from place to place. Also, have your documents in order. So have copies of your passport, have travel insurance. If you're traveling with a laptop, have important documents saved in the cloud instead of just on the hard drive there. I know one of my DJ friends who's Venezuelan had his whole backpack stolen with all of his music and he didn't have that backed up. I know friends in Costa Rica that had their suitcases taken out of the trunk of their car. So make sure that you have travel insurance. I'll link to some companies I use below, and have anything important saved in the cloud. You can also register with your embassy. If you're going to be in a foreign country, you can share your location with friends and family. And there's also emergency apps that you can use. So if you don't know the emergency number, that's a really good idea to be able to call in that country or register with an emergency app as well. Just knowing the local numbers is always a good idea. Something that's helped me throughout my travels since I was a teenager is really trusting my intuition and my gut. Using common sense and judgment and really trusting your intuition is so important. I've avoided a lot of situations before because I felt like something just wasn't right. And I definitely felt this way the other day right before the shooting. I really didn't feel comfortable as soon as the taxi dropped me off at the location, and walking in through the front door, like I just felt something was weird when I was there and I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't like it. And even walking in, my friend stopped to buy gum from women that were sitting on the sidewalk selling gum. And I was just like so nervous. I was like, what are you doing? Like, do we really need to buy gum right now? Like, let's just go inside. Like, let's not stand out here in the dark. And yeah. And then, 10 minutes later, that happened. So follow your intuition. Also, when you are out walking around, be aware of your surroundings. I see a lot of people walking around looking at their phones, following the map, turning this way and that way. What I always do, and I wrote about this in my books as well, Moving Abroad for Dummies and Digital Nomads for Dummies, is I always look at the map before I walk outside so I know where I'm going and which direction. Even if I take a wrong turn, I usually know when I'm going in the right direction and when I get there. And then if you need to check, pop into a store or a cafe or something, check your phone, check your location, see where you are, and then keep going. So be aware of your surroundings. Where you travel also matters. Obviously, choosing to come to Ecuador during a time that they're having a lot of security problems, protests, political problems, that's on me. I did know what was going on. I didn't realize it was as bad as it is because I experienced this and I heard stories from people in person once I got here. Go to safer places unless you have, a real specific reason why you need to be somewhere. So Google it, look online, read the news, look at social media. That's where you'll see a lot of the real story of what's going on. The odds of this happening in a place like Iceland, which is one of the safest countries in the world at the top of the global peace index, probably would never happen there. So there's definitely places that you can go that are going to be safer than others. And unfortunately, right now in Latin America, all of my friends from different countries, whether they're from Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina, Cuba, they were not surprised when I told them what happened. So you can check the State Department website, check for travel alerts, warnings, check the Global Peace Index, and travel to safe places if at all possible. Despite the risks that are inherent with travel, I'm still personally going to keep traveling. I'm going to keep helping people relocate to other countries, although I mostly help people move to Europe and not so many places in Latin America, Costa Rica, Panama, a bit, which are a bit safer than some other countries. I've been traveling by myself for 20, 25 years now, also traveling with friends, significant others, in groups with family members. It depends where I'm going. But I've personally gotten so much out of travel that this won't stop me from traveling. I'll definitely think twice before coming back to Ecuador or, traveling alone in countries that are going through problems right now, and stick to countries where I feel, safer and more comfortable, but it won't keep me from traveling in general. When I was in college, people used to tell me that it wasn't safe, when I'd go surfing in Mexico or Puerto Rico or places. But for me, I always felt like it wasn't safe to walk through the Walmart parking lot in Orlando, where I was going to school. So, things can happen anywhere. Be safe wherever you go. I talk a lot more about solo travel in this video right here that I filmed in the UK. So you can watch that next. And also this video about why people go to Costa Rica and places and then leave. And hopefully that helps you make informed decisions about where you're traveling or moving abroad.